Now, what is a brand? Paul, you're calling it the long-term strategic narrative. What? It's really ultimately a brand. A brand is a promise. A promise is extraordinarily important. You have to live and fulfill your promise. Why, 25 years ago, did New Coke become probably the greatest brand mistake that most brand historians look at? You know, since World War II, Coca-Cola has dominated the market. There's fascinating history about what happened in World War II and the GI Coke, food packs and how Coke got in there. But they were the leaders in the market for almost 50 years. But they looked at the market and they said, you know, even though we're the market leaders, and even though we can command a higher price than Pepsi, people in wine taste tests, 3 out of 5 people like Pepsi better. So we're going to change the formula. And we all remember what happened. How many of you have, with your Blackberries have a new Coke with you this morning? Again, this is what I don't like. Coca-Cola, of course, is breakfast of champions. But why did it fail? Because the brand promise, the red and white can, guarantees an experience. Even if the experience is better, it violates the promise. So what's our brand promise? That is extraordinary. Now, we all know what's most important for us to be doing. We see any variation of it, J.D. Power studies and others. In addition to reliability and safety, obviously value, but it's how we're continuously communicating with our customers. It's how we're demonstrating our commitment to infrastructure, and of course, it's how we answer the individual questions from customers. That drives our brand experience more than anything else. Okay, we all know that, but how? How do we execute that? So, 6 rules, and then I'm going to stop talking. One of the things that Tony asked me to do here, he said, in those 15 minutes, could you also work in religion? If you could, so I thought I would do that, and I would start with Buddhist. Okay, and what do the Buddhists tell us? When speaking, focus on the center of the forehead of the person you are speaking to. Not us, them. The entire brand experience has nothing to do with you. Perception trumps reality. It's the reality of your customers. That is the only measure of a brand. Who knows this better than anyone? Apple computers, right? When Apple only owned 5% of the computer market, what did they do that no other computer company did? They put their brand on the back of the computer. So when you were sitting there, everyone knew that you were part of the Apple religion, the Apple tribe. It wasn't a commodity. It was a theology. It was a lifestyle. Because they knew that early adapters were all what we politely called then nerds. They would be buying computers and would say Radio Shack in the front, IBM. They already knew what they bought. Right? They wanted to advertise to the world, oh, you like me, I like you, I'm different, I have a different lifestyle. And so you have this extraordinary relationship in terms of what Apple is able to do and the relationship they're able to have with their customers. So, 2. So if you've got, first, it's all about the brand. It's all about the perception of what's in the minds of the customers. Number 2 is speed. Who defines your narrative? First, defines your narrative. Like it or not, you are in a race to define your narrative. If you do not have one, it's being defined by others. Take a look at issues like GMOs, genetically modified organisms. For 40 years, every medical study showed that there were no adverse health effects of GMOs. And that was enough for the industry. Monsanto, Syngenta did not do any marketing. What happened in 1999? The first anti-GMO website went up. Non-GMO.org. How long did it take the industry to respond? 13 years. 13 years is enough time for anyone to get religion. What do? First, there are ideas. But once we see it enough, particularly in a vacuum, it becomes our belief, it becomes factual. Monsanto and Syngenta, despite all of their abilities, have given up marketing on GMOs. We see the same in terms of fracking. Industry had decades of advanced opportunity and market advantage and lost. So, who communicates first controls the brand. 3, our customers are our evangelists. It's how McDonald's works, it's how Disney works, it is how all the experiences. Who understands that so well? Right. Starbucks. Right. I mean, think about this. People will wait in line, use language we do not understand, barista, grande, right? I just want a coffee. You know, I'm too insecure to go into a Starbucks. It feels like Spanish. You know, when you did it in junior high and you took Spanish 2, but you hadn't taken Spanish 1. You know, you're like, I'm so lost when I go into Starbucks. But Howard Schultz, who just resigned yesterday, said what? We are about principle and people over profits. Now, what happened last week, May 29th, after the Philadelphia incident? What did Starbucks do? Right, they closed their stores for a half a day. What was the cost to Starbucks? Over $12 million in profits. Why? Because we care. We demonstrate our commitment. We demonstrate our promise. So when I said earlier, you can't just advertise and say things, you have to live it and do it. That's absolutely critical. We have to do that every time. So our customers are our evangelists, and that means we do not understand our water bills. We don't. You know, we still think of you the way we used to, which is a utility, you know, and the invisibility principle as a monopoly. We do not understand you. What's most important is the experience we have in any interaction. That's the phone, it's the web, that's critical. The more human the experience, the more valuable it is to your brand. And by the way, what you measure is what gets done. If you measure speed of human interaction on the phone, you defeat your purpose, right? Because then success is rushing customers off the phone. The famous experience of Disney, the cleanest parks. What did they tell their janitorial staff? Clean is the goal. That's what they measured. What did the janitors start doing? What did the cleaning crews start doing? Getting angry at customers. You're dirtying the park. Right? We do what we measure. And so instead they said, your goal is the customer experience. And they became evangelists. Right? All great brands start from within. It has to be, we have to be measuring how we do great customer service, how we communicate internally. We have to believe it internally. It's about great leadership. It's about doing what we say. So the brand is internal. Next is that, you know, millennials and Gen Xers think it's much more important about what you do for your community. What you do for your community. What your products are. That's hugely important. And so your third parties, your echo chamber here, the public schools, the environmental groups, the housing organizations, those become critical. They become the echo chamber that reestablish what people believe. The fifth is the narrative is emotional. This is all about emotion. It's not about fact. It's about emotion. You know, years ago, after 9/11, we worked on Guantanamo Bay. We represent lots of U.S. Arab allies out of the Gulf, and we're working for one of our Arab allies who are caught up in all the Guantanamo. Obviously, an incredibly unpopular issue after 9/11. No one's really concerned about people who are innocent who were caught up in the dragnet. And of all the things that we did that changed that narrative and that changed that issue historically, the most important thing I think that we did was a really simple step. The website that was created showed the detainees from, this case, Kuwait, our close allies in the Gulf, not in hijabs, not in Arab attire, but in their Western outfits, in their suits and ties. And what did that do? That made them human. It made them emotional. So a couple of years ago, I was speaking to the electric utilities, and I think I looked at every electric utility website in the United States. Certainly many, many dozens, if not hundreds. And only on one did I not see clip art. Right? And the one I didn't see had what? It had stick figures. Right? When I say clip art, you know, the stuff that you buy already, and it shows, you know, the linemen and women, right? You know, but they're obviously photoshopped. And I thought, why do that? Linemen are heroes. They go out and make sure in an electrical storm that your pot roast in the refrigerator is preserved, because your refrigerator comes, the power comes back on. I think, you know, what could possibly go wrong? Water and electricity. I mean, what's the risk? What happened after 9/11? We used to call them police and firemen. What do we call them now? First responders. So, question for you. When there's a disaster, when there's an infrastructure problem, when there's a flood, when there's a storm drainage challenges, you go out there, your crews go out there, and you save lives. You make sure people are safe. You make sure lives are uninterrupted. Where's that story? Because you're first responders too, and I'm really happy to see so many of your websites starting to do more and more of that. But that's critical, because like we said, it's all about the emotion. And your people are first responders, and we need to understand that. And I think that DenverWaterTap.org does a really great job of communicating on a virtually daily basis. And obviously, we need to do that. So 2 last things in closing. One is it's all about reach and repetition. All about reach and repetition. About 30 years ago, the cartoonist Gary Larson had what he called the Jurassic calendar. He had a Tyrannosaurus X with a crayon and a calendar, and he was Xing out each day, and on each day it said, kill something and eat it. Okay? So that is our agenda. Every day we need to be communicating in every way and every touch point. Everything. And it has to be instantly understandable from the other. But we need to be touching people at every step. And then lastly, is what's your story? What's your story? You get 3,000 to 5,000 messages every day. 3,000 to 5,000 messages every day. Who here can name 3 from yesterday? We're overwhelmed with information. So even though you think you're overwhelmingly communicating everywhere, it's clutter. There's this extraordinary clutter. We have to be able to communicate so often that the test of a brand is what our customers think. And what they know. Do all of your customers know what words you own in the center of the forehead? Do your employees know what words you own? I mean, in DC, I know water is life. I mean, I know that because I think they've done a great job with branding. But here's the last question that I'm going to sit up there is there's 100 tattoos that are the most popular tattoos. I don't get tattoos in those rings, but I know they're really popular. So there's 100 tattoos that are really popular. Okay, of the 100, name the one corporate logo that's among those 100. You know, there's Mary and Mom and Catholic Cross. But what's the one corporate logo that gets tattoos? Harley Davidson, right? Harley Davidson isn't about the best motorcycle, it's about a story. So here's the test. When your customers are willing to put your logo tattooed on their car, you will have branding. Until then, everything is about branding, it's about marketing, it's about communicating